Welcome back to On Tap Bets Live, presented by On Tap Sportsnet. He's Joey Ricotta. I'm I with Zach, and we have another stacked lineup of bets to cover tonight. But before we do, are you looking for a better place to bet online? I know you are. Well, we've got you covered. On Tap Sportsnet has a partnership with Bet Rivers, and our listeners can get a free first-time deposit match up to $250 just by going to betrivers.com and using promo code ONTAP. That's promo code ONTAP. It's free money, folks. What are you waiting for? Joey, my brother, what's up, man? How you doing?
Good, Zach. Good. How are you doing? I'm ready for this. Ready to dive in here. I know we've been talking about some juicy looking matchups for this week, so I'm ready to bring it on. How you doing, man?
Really good slate today. This week, I'm all right. Personal note, rough day for my White Sox. We had the game one of the ALDS and didn't go the way we hoped. Lost 6-1, but hey, man, that's why it's a series. Come back tomorrow and win it. If you are interested in the Sox, you can go over and check out our boys on Sox on Tap. They recapped that game earlier. But so you know what, I'd be lying, Joey, if I said I haven't drank some tins tonight, as my boy Jason Hosking would say, drink some tins. Been hitting it a little bit, but hey, I'm ready to shift gears and talk about some bets. So with that, coming into this week, I want to do a little recap. How'd you do last week?
I got absolutely demolished when it comes to college for the second straight week. So that's always fun. Just absolutely crushed. I'm not even going to get into the exact number, but I'm pretty sure it was below 40%. So you can do the math on that. I guess I did kind of do the math right there. But,
yeah, good math.
Good math. It was almost specific, but specific enough. NFL, man, the prop article wasn't that great, but spreads and totals wise, I think I went 10-1 on the week. So that made up for a lot of it and made some money with DFS. So can't complain all in all. How was your week?
I was exactly 50%, 3-3 in college, 3-3 in NFL in terms of the picks that we made on the show. My Hawkeyes won and covered, and I picked that one, so I was all right with that. But a little rough. I called some locks last week, Arkansas being one of them to cover, and that did not happen. We'll talk about that a little bit as we talk about our bets for Arkansas this week. But so it was a little rough, 6-6, you're in the red there, losing a little bit of money, but it is what it is. Let's rebound. Let's have a good week this week.
Yeah, let's do it, man. Hey, by the way, it's our Hawkeyes.
Yes.
You are Iowa Zach, but we are both Hawkeyes. This is a Hawkeyes podcast.
Attaboy. Hey, before we get in, I want to ask you about this dope hat you're wearing. I mean, I'm not a Bears fan, but I mean, it's fucking Christmas come early, it looks like. You look sharp, man.
Oh, thanks, man. That's what I was going for, and that's exactly, you said it. You hit it on the head. It's Christmas come early with Justin Fields being named the starting quarterback for the foreseeable future. So I'm elated. I mean, I thought for a second here we were going to get the Andy Dalton experience for at least one more week, the way it sounded early in the week when Matt Nagy did his little presser there or whatever and announced Dalton as a starter. And then somehow he had a miraculous change of heart. Don't know where the pressure came from. Don't know if it was his own doing, but don't care. Justin Fields will be starting this week, and yeah, we got a nice little Christmas present here in October. So
that's great. That. For those that listen to this after the fact in podcast form, which we are on Spotify, Joey's got a Santa Claus hat with the Chicago Bears logo on it. So I mean, it's very dapper. I'm really enjoying it.
Yeah, you could almost wear this with a suit, I feel like.
Absolutely.
Santa suit.
All right, man. Let's start jumping in. Let's start with college as always. I'm going to start here with number 6 Oklahoma going to Texas this week. Texas ranked 21 at the time. Oklahoma laying 3.5 and the over under 63.5 on this. Oklahoma coming in at 5-1. Texas at 4-1. Oklahoma coming off a win over K-State. They were 12.5 point favorites. They didn't cover. Final score on that one was 37-31. Texas off a 32-27 win over TCU, and they did cover as 4-point favorites. So, Joey, I'm going to let you kick this one off. Where you landing on this one?
Yeah, this is a little bit of a tough one. I think I really like what I heard from Steve Sarkisian. He said, I appreciate the continual asking about the Arkansas game because it keeps a bad taste in my mouth and our players' mouths. So I think it's lighting their fuel here a little bit just from that game alone. And I mean, we know how they look bad in that game. Whatever the reason is, it's working right now for the Longhorns. So Bijan Robinson, he looks incredible. I mean, he actually has an outside shot of stealing the Heisman right now, which is normally a quarterback award. I mean, and you would expect it to be most of the time, but he's second in the nation in rushing yards with 652, making their really average or below average offensive line look better than they are, really. With Oklahoma, the Sooners don't appear to be as strong as many believe, I don't think, coming into this year. But because their last 3 wins, I mean, they've won by 7 points or less, and they barely squeaked by West Virginia with a last-second field goal. So, Rattler's talented, but, OU, they really haven't gotten the production they wanted on the ground either to really enhance Lincoln Riley's RPO and like the play action attack that he's got going there, or wants to get going there. Rattler's thrown an interception more games than the games that he hasn't this year. So with 2 great play callers here with Sarkisian and Lincoln Riley, what it really comes down to for me was who has the most talent and who will make the fewer mistakes. And I think the best player on the field for me is Bijan Robinson. And I think Shark calls a good enough game against Oklahoma, who's 101st in passing yards per game allowed. So that's not really a good number out of 130. So give me Texas here, +3. I like them taking the points.
All right, we're going to start off on opposite sides. I am taking Oklahoma and laying the points here. I agree with you on a lot of what you said. I think Bijan, Robinson is everything he's hyped up to be. Currently getting plus 3,000 odds for that Heisman, by the way, which is 6th. But Spencer Rattler's still at plus 2,500, 5th, so right in front of him. So you got a couple maybe long shot Heisman hopefuls here, but some solid talent in this game. What I dialed in on though was Oklahoma's ability to stop the rush. 83.6 yards is all they've given up, which is 4th in the Power 5, Joey. I really like Bijan Robinson. I think Oklahoma's defense has the ability to take him out of the equation. And then I think at that point it comes down to these passing offenses, and Spencer Rattler has the edge in that sense. I will say most of the public and most of the money is with you, Joey. All the trends are leaning Texas, 76% of the bets, 75% of the money. So a lot of folks are with you. But listen, when it comes down to the pass game, Texas passed for less than 200 yards in 3 of their 5 games so far. I don't think they have the air power to hang with Oklahoma in this one. That's where I'm landing with Oklahoma minus 3.5. But this was a tough one. I'm with you, man. Not an easy one to pick.
No, it's not. And I think what really kind of set me over the top was also the home field advantage. But we know how this showdown goes with these 2 teams, and it's going to be a fun one. So I don't blame you for going the opposite side. I could easily see it going to like overtime and Oklahoma winning by a touchdown.
Right. All right. Arkansas, number 13, going to Ole Miss this week, number 17. Ole Miss is laying 6, the over-under 67 in this one. Ole Miss coming into this one at 3-1 and Arkansas at 4-1. Mississippi is coming off a 20-point loss to Bama. They were 15-point underdogs and didn't cover that. That was, I think, your lock last week, and I was with you. Wow. I think I bet Ole Miss to cover that too, and they couldn't do it. Arkansas, though, man, coming off a 31-0 loss against Georgia. They were 16.5-point underdogs as well. That was my lock, and that didn't hit. So both of us both of us got killed on our locks against heavyweights last week. Man, I was so high on Arkansas, and I still am. I like what they have going. That rush game is insane. 224 yards rushing per game. They're putting up 6.6 yards per play. But they're not scoring a ton of points, Joey. It's kind of killing me. 28.6 points per game is 73rd in the country. I still like what they're doing with KJ Jefferson. And they have just a stacked backfield full of running backs. Traylon Smith, Raheem Sanders, Dominique Johnson, AJ Green, all those guys getting somewhere between 30 to 70 yards or 30 to 60 yards a game. I mean, they're doing a lot. I look at what happened last week, and it's really skewing me, right? So they were held to 75 yards rushing and 62.5 yards passing against Georgia. I know it's Georgia, right? I totally caveat with all that stuff. I know it's Georgia, but they couldn't do anything. And then they got just eaten up on defense as well. Zamir White, James Cook, Kendall Milton, Kenny McIntosh, each of those guys had at least 48 yards last week. So Georgia ran all over them. And then I kind of dug into some stuff. Arkansas is averaging 83.2 yards in penalties per game. Ooh. 101 yards against Georgia. You look at that, and it's pretty consistent week to week. So there's for some reason, some discipline issues there in the penalty game. They're just getting killed. Mississippi, on the other hand, Ole Miss, this high-flying offense that we've talked about many times already in our first few shows, but 305, almost 306 passing yards a game, rushing for another 240 on the ground. I just love what they're doing. 7 yards per play. Every time these guys run the ball, it's 7 yards. I mean, that's just a recipe for success. We know about Matt Corral, plus 250 for the Heisman. He's number 2. So it's between him and, him and Bryce Young right now. He's already at 1,200 passing yards, 10 TDs already. So I think Arkansas maybe scared me a little bit last week. Neither of these teams showed out last week, but look who they were playing, right? Georgia and Alabama. So for me, the difference I came down to, they both came up against a heavyweight last week. Mississippi, Ole Miss actually showed something. They passed for 213 yards against Bama, which is not easy. We know that Bama allows less than 180 passing yards a game and just a touchdown. And they scored 3 touchdowns in the red zone against Bama. So I think they can move the ball on a good defense. I'm taking Ole Miss laying the points.
Okay, we're not fighting this time.
Okay.
All right, so I liked what you touched on with Traylon Smith and KJ Jefferson. The running attack, they could be a problem for Ole Miss. They're allowing 154.5 rushing yards per game, so it could be a problem. But I have to imagine that the game plan for Arkansas will be to run the ball effectively. But that said, I think both teams obviously are looking to bounce back here, but I think the revenge game lies with Ole Miss because last year the Razorbacks won by double digits at home. Mm-hmm. Matt Corral threw 6 picks. Can't believe that's going to happen here.
He's not doing that again.
No, he's much improved from last season, and he hasn't thrown 1 yet this year. So, to like what you mentioned, the 10 touchdowns. So, and even in the loss against Bama, like you said, they were able to do something, and then some of that was also due to their loss getting out of hand as it was, and maybe not getting even more points was due to them going for it on 4th down in a couple of those spots. So, I think, obviously Arkansas ranks 3rd in the nation in passing yards per game allowed with 129, just almost 130. So it's not going to be easy for Corral, but I think Arkansas, and they get decent pressures on their quarterbacks, but that they face. So I think Corral will have to run actually a little bit more in this game, but he has the ability to. He's got 2 games with at least 55 rushing yards, and the other one was like in the 30s. And another game at least in like the 30s of rushing yards. So I trust Lane Kiffin here in this offense more than the Razorbacks offense. And we know Kiffin is well aware of what the spreads are. So I have them winning. Therefore, I have them covering. Ole Miss, -6 or whatever. I'm taking Ole Miss.
Okay. We're aligned on that one. Georgia going to Auburn. Georgia, number 2, Auburn 18. Georgia laying 15.5 against a ranked opponent. Over-unders 46.5. Georgia undefeated at 5-0. Auburn at 4-1. I'll let you go with this one first.
Yeah, I mean Auburn's coming off a huge win in Death Valley, first time since '99 over LSU last week. Bo Nix, I mean, he played probably the best game I've ever seen him play. And that's saying something because his struggles on the road have really been terrible for his career splits, and we've talked about it on the past here on the show. But he made some insane what the fuck how plays in that game. Looked like Johnny Football at some points back in his college days. But but Georgia absolutely dominated Arkansas with their second straight shutout. So, we talked about Arkansas a little bit and how we don't really trust them. But, I mean, Georgia just, show that they're in a tier of their own right now with Alabama as the 1 and 2 teams in the nation. So, that solidified their spot. But, I mean, even if JT Daniels, he could miss with the lat injury and it could be Stetson Bennett. They proved last week that it doesn't really matter, right? I mean, 4 running backs ran for at least 48 yards, and they had 273 total rushing yards last week. I think they'll simplify things enough for Stetson Bennett and find a way. The talent's just too much. The hero ball, miracle ball from Bo Nix, I think that runs out here. And those crazy plays turn into probably sacks with the speed on this defense for Georgia. So give me Georgia laying the points.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not going to pick a side on this one. I'm going to go with the total, and I'll get there. I agree with everything you said, though. I mean, Georgia is everything that we thought they were and more. That defense is just fucking unreal. 4.6 points a game, Joey. It's
Wild.
crazy. It's crazy. 7 interceptions on the season so far and 2 fumbles recovered already. So they've got 9 turnovers in just 5 games. They're just crazy. Held Arkansas to 75 yards, as we just talked about, on the ground, 87 through the air. It's a great defense. But Auburn, I'm not going to take away from them. I think I had some questions about their defense early. Was it for real? And I think it is as well. They're allowing less than 100 yards a game on the ground, 90 to be exact. You talked about Bo Nix last week. Did have a good game. Still quite inaccurate. He threw the ball 48 times, just 50% completion. So he had 290 yards, but they're putting the ball up in the air, almost 50 times with that. And that wasn't against a great pass defense in LSU. They have a lot of rushing yards on the season when you look at it per game, but that's heavily skewed also by the first 2 weeks of the season when they played Akron and Alabama State. Less than 184 yards against Penn State and Georgia State and LSU. So, I hate spreads like this. I hate this large of a spread on a ranked opponent. It just kind of scares me. So I started looking at totals and thinking about that. I think Auburn's rush defense is for real. And I think with JT Daniels out, and you're right, Stetson, they did show that they can still win, obviously, and dominate with a backup quarterback. But if you look, he only threw the ball 11 times last week. Stetson did, and he didn't need to, but you could tell. I mean, the talent's not quite the same as Daniels, and you could tell they were kind of not want to expose that at all. So he had a great game. Don't get me wrong, but only 11 times. I think these two are going to bang it out on the ground, and I think the under is going to hit. These are 2 of the top defenses, especially when it comes to the rush. I think they're going to go head-to-head all day, and I'm going to go under 46.5. Yeah,
I agree with you on that. For me, I think the safer play to take is taking Auburn's team total under because Georgia scares me. But they could get it going on the ground. But I agree with you. This game, I would take it under too. I like that.
Yeah. All right, number 9, Michigan going to Nebraska. Michigan laying 3.5 points. The over-under is 51 here. Michigan, we talked a lot about last week. Asked a lot of questions about whether they were for real or not. But they're 5-0 now. Coming off a nice win over Wisconsin. I did not pick that. That was one of my losses last week. I thought Wisconsin was going to expose Michigan, and I was wrong. Nebraska coming off a blowout win over Northwestern, 56-7. Both of those covered in those games. So Nebraska's 3-3. You go ahead with this one, Joey.
Yeah, I mean, Jim Harbaugh's got the mojo working for Big Blue. I mean, I was wrong about that game too, right? I had Wisconsin. I was on that side. I thought it was a bounce back spot. Obviously, that team has way more problems than I even thought. I mean, I knew they had problems, but the quarterback issue is it's not just that. It's also in the passing game too. I mean, Cade McNamara hit some deep shots on that team. I don't know. What are you going to do? Wisconsin just looks like they're done this year. They definitely are. But, that said, the game was much closer last week until Wisconsin's backup came in. So, Nebraska rolling right now, murdered Northwestern, which not a great team, but and they also killed Buffalo, which I think is actually a better team than some people give credit to. Kept it close on the road with Michigan State and on the road versus Oklahoma. So both defenses are good. I mean, Michigan 5th in points per game allowed, 12.8. Nebraska 15th in points per game allowed, 17.2. Both teams love to run the ball. I mean, Nebraska utilizes Adrian Martinez really well with their triple option that they got going there, that attack. Michigan runs the ball at the 5th highest rate, over 70% rushing play percentage, and Nebraska runs at the 29th highest rate. So maybe I'm wrong about Michigan. Maybe they win this by a touchdown or more. But I'm leaning Nebraska, but that's due to, I don't know. I think they're a little bit better than I even gave them credit to coming into the season. But my play in this game is the under, because I think both of these teams, the way they play, their style of play, and the defenses that they actually have, and I think Michigan comes down a little bit offensively against Nebraska. Give me under. I believe you said 51. I like the under there.
Yeah, that's a good play. I like that as well. I am taking Nebraska plus the points, and I feel crazy doing this, but I like what they're doing, and I think you hit on a lot of good points. These are two legit defenses, and I didn't believe Nebraska, for the first couple weeks, but when you look at their losses so far, right? So 3-3 losses to Illinois. Yeah, week 1, that was whatever, but Oklahoma, Michigan State, all on the road were those were their other 2 losses. They've been perfect at home. Now that is against Fordham, Buffalo, and Northwestern, right? But they've been impressive. I think, they're allowing just 122 rushing yards per game. I think Michigan will have more success than that, but I think they have the ability to stop. And then on the other side, you're right. I think Michigan has the ability to counter Adrian Martinez and the rest of that team, on the ground. So I viewed this as almost like these two teams are going to cancel each other out on the ground and in the trenches. And then for me, it comes down to quarterback play. And I'm sorry, but Adrian Martinez has been very impressive. And so I'm riding that. I'm going to take Nebraska at home, the sea of red. Nebraska plus 3.5. I'm riding them.
Love it.
They're 5-1 against the spread too, and 2-0 as underdogs. So,
gotta mean something.
Yep. All right, final college game of the slate. Number 1, Alabama at Texas A&M. Bama laying 18. The over/under is 51.5. Bama coming in obviously undefeated. We all know what they're doing. Texas A&M at 3-2. Bama, we talked about a little bit ago, coming off a very impressive win over Ole Miss. They're 15-point favors and covered that. A&M coming off a loss to Mississippi State, and they were also favored in that, 7.5-point favorites, and didn't cover. So a bit of a letdown for A&M there. I mean, I feel like such a broken record talking about Bama, but they haven't let us down yet, right? I mean, Bryce Young is a clear Heisman favorite, plus 125 odds right now is by far the best in the country. They're putting up 45.5 points a game. And that's the pass game. And then you have, Brian Robertson Jr. on the ground with 6 TDs already on the early season. And this defense, it is what it is. They have, 18.2 points per game. So there's some room there. But, last week they held Matt Corral to 213 pass yards. And that may sound like a lot, but he'd been putting up 305 leading into that and just 1 touchdown through the air. And they stifled Ole Miss at 78 yards rushing. So just dominance on a really good team. A&M, is doing some good things too. Zach Calzada, 748 yards to the air, 5 touchdowns, but 4 interceptions. So he's been somewhat struggling to control the ball there. A&M's got back-to-back losses as favorites against the SEC. Lost to Arkansas and Mississippi State. I'm just not comfortable with them. And the rest of the country agrees with me, for the record. Bama's getting 93% of the money and 93% of the bets right now. So I'm riding Bama minus 18. They haven't, they haven't shown me a reason in this matchup to go any other way.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I mean, you pretty much summed it all up. Can't trust Zach Calzada right now. He's looked pretty awful filling in for Haynes King at quarterback. A&M's 86th in pass blocking grade, and not much better in run blocking. That's not going to cut it against this Bama team. I mean, their defense is good enough to. They're gonna. You put pressure on Zach Calzada, he really struggles under pressure too. So that's what's led to a lot of these interceptions and him not being that good. So, I mean, like you said, losing to Mississippi State on the road, Arkansas on the road. Or at Mississippi State at home, Arkansas on the road. Their defense is really good, but I'm not sure it's going to cut it here against Saban's team, and maybe some short fields set up by a defense that should get pressure, like I said, on Calzada, and he's not been good under pressure. So Bama, I'm laying the points with Bama.
Yeah,
it's a pretty easy one for me, at least with this.
Yep, agreed. Before we transition to NFL, I know, there's so many good college football slates, the matchups this week. Did you have any honorable mentions you want to cover?
No, but there was a game we missed.
Was there one? Which one?
The most important game of the Saturday, of the weekend.
Holy shit. Joey, I'm sorry.
You are Iowa Zach. Come on.
Oh my God. I flipped the page to the wrong page. I'm embarrassed. Number 4, Penn State. At number 3, Iowa. Not only the most important game for us, but game day. I mean, this is the best matchup of the week. I apologize. Iowa, our Hawkeyes laying 1.5 points. The over/under is 40.5. Both these teams 5-0. Battle of the undefeateds here in the Big Ten. Iowa coming off a big win, 51-14 over Maryland. They were just 3.5 point favorites. I picked that one, but I did not expect that sort of discrepancy there. Penn State also coming off a nice solid blanking of Indiana, 24-0. They were 11.5 point favorites, so they obviously covered that as well. I'll start with this one. This is such a tight matchup, Joey. This game scares the shit out of me as a Hawkeye fan. Every time we play Penn State, it scares the shit out of me. Sean Clifford, we know all about him. Well, over 1,300 yards already this year, 267 a game, put up 11 touchdowns already. And he can also do it on the ground. 41 rushes. He's rushing them just shy of 40 yards a game. They have a run game as well. Noah Kane, Kayvon Lee, they're combining for over 70 yards a game. So they're doing really good things across the board, but Penn State's defense is what scares me, Joey, in this one. 12 points per game, that's third. Behind, we'll get to that. But they're producing just shy of 2 turnovers per game. They have 7 interceptions on the season already, 3 by Jair Brown. I mean, we know what Jair Brown is brought. I mean, that guy's insane. Last week against Indiana, put up 199 yards through the air and then 209 yards on the ground. And then stifled Indiana for just 69 yards rushing. So that defense at Penn State scares me. Iowa, on the other hand, a great showing last week, a great bounce back from what I would consider a letdown against, Colorado State. It was it was a nice pick me up this week. Just went off, put up a 50 burger on Maryland. Petrus, 5 total TDs in that game.
Talk about it. Talk about it.
I mean, he looked on. I mean, Petrus, since he's taken the helm in this, has scared the shit out of me. I mean, every week, you never in past years, you never knew what the guy was going to do, but he's protecting the ball. He's going through his progressions. He's making better decisions than he ever has. He looks comfortable. I mean, I was pleased with what I saw. But my favorite part about Iowa is what it always has been, that defense as well. I talked about Penn State being third. Guess who's number 2? Iowa. So 11.6 points per game so far. 12 interceptions on the season so far. Our boy Riley Moss has got 3 of those, so we know all about him. And then 12 sacks on the season as well. So this defense is fucking stout. I love it. It just it gets me giddy. Now, that said, this is so tightly matched. Like I said, I think this kind of goes back to another game we talked about where there's a lot of canceling out here. I'm telling you, Joey, if this game was at Penn State, I would pick Penn State easy. I think this comes down to who makes less mistakes. I think these defenses are going to somewhat cancel each other out, and I think they're going to try to run the ball at each other all day. I hate to admit it, but Penn State's had a tougher schedule so far. They've proven more.
Yep.
I'm taking a totally unbiased approach here. I don't like this game. I don't like this game as a Hawkeye fan, and I think Penn State covers. Probably wins.
Woo!
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't expecting that.
I know.
I wasn't either. You actually had me going because I thought you kind of like set it up that you were going with Penn State if they were at home, and then you were going to go the other way, and then you still went with Penn State.
I know. I'm just looking for an edge here on either side, and I just see so much canceling out. I think they're going to battle it out in the trenches, and I think that's all going to kind of be a stalemate. And I think Sean Clifford is going to take the ball in his hands, and Petrus is going to take the ball in his hands. And I'm sorry, but I can't take Petrus over Clifford in that instance. What do you think?
So here we go. So you were building up Petrus, and now I'm gonna bring it full circle here, because as much as you haven't trusted him at Iowa, and he's given you all the reasons not to trust him over the years, right? And me too, and Hawkeye fans and just people who doubt Iowa just in the national media and everything. I mean, we've obviously been looking forward to this game for a while. I mean, we knew they were coming up, even last week and the week before with the struggles, but last week the domination they showed after stomping out Maryland. I mean, I think a lot of national media is finally starting to come around on the Hawkeyes team, because the biggest issue I've had with this, the Hawkeyes are a fraud, they're fluky, the narrative that I keep hearing, they always seem to make the defensive takeaways that lead to points a thing of luck rather than calling them what they are, which is takeaways, right?
Yeah.
And the Hawks do a great job of forcing them and stifling offenses. I mean, leading the nation in picks per game and turnover margin. And by the way, let's talk about this turnover margin. Penn State is also very good with a +6 turnover margin, but Iowa is number 1, and Penn State's 13th. Iowa's number 1 with 12. That's a pretty big gap between turnovers when you're talking about just the 1 and the 13th ranked team. I mean, Iowa's like head and shoulders above everybody. Now, You can call that luck, you call that whatever you want, national media people, but the fact of the matter is Iowa does a great job of forcing them. And I mean, Talia Tagovailoa, he had 0 turnover-worthy plays coming into the last week's game, and then he threw 5 picks against Iowa.
Yeah.
So it's got to tell you something about their defense. I mean, but going back to Spencer Petras, I like what they're doing a little bit now. He opened it up a little bit, 259 yards, 3 touchdowns. And there was actually a little bit of meat left on the bone, I felt like, with a couple of drops and a big one by Nico Regini. I mean, that was a beautifully thrown ball. It was absolutely beautiful, and he just dropped it. Also, Petrus's efficiency rating has actually gone up every single week. And reminder, you know this, but reminder to anybody listening, their second game of the season, they faced Iowa State, who ranks second in passing yards allowed per game. So I think Petrus in this offense has actually taken a step. I mean, PSU is a little bit of a different animal. Penn State, they're going to be their toughest opponent, as you mentioned. They shut out Indiana last week, beat Auburn, beat the Badgers. Deshaun Clifford to Jahan Dotson connections in full effect. It's working. Dotson's leading the Big Ten in receptions. It can't be understated, how solid Penn State's defense has been, obviously. But if this game, like you said, if this game is at Happy Valley, I'd lean Nittany Lions, and I'd actually probably make that bet. But Kinnick Stadium is a huge advantage.
Yeah.
And I think that place is going to be rocking. And this has been historically a matchup of streaks. Like Penn State will win a few in a row, and then Iowa will win a few in a row. Iowa won last year. The streak started last year. Give me Iowa laying the points.
Man, I've never wanted to be wrong more. And maybe this is like, as a fan, you never want to bring bias into your bets. And so maybe I'm overcompensating. And I have watched Petrus now for a few years. And I think it's hard to get some of the past issues out of my head. And I'm not sure Iowa's going to have the success on the ground that they have so far, right? And so I think this ball is going to end up in Petrus's hands to win this game. It's not going to be a blowout on either side. It's going to be a tight fucking game. And I'm just scared. I'm just scared if it comes down to it, who makes less mistakes. I hope I'm wrong. But we'll see.
Yeah. And I forgot to mention also, I do like the under in this game as well.
Yeah,
because for the reasons you mentioned, I mean, and the defenses, it's going to be a slugfest. It's going to be points are going to be at a premium.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see there being many points. I think it's going to be who makes the mistake, and that's probably the best play of the game, even though it's at 41 or whatever.
Yeah, 40.5. I looked at the under hard on this one. That seemed too low for me.
It is low, but do you think that either one of these teams are going to put up more than 23?
No. I mean, I wouldn't shy away from playing the under. I'll tell you that if Iowa can get, a solid takeaway, I mean, especially if they can get two, I mean, they'll win this game. So, that's a good chance. Like we both talked about, biggest turnover margin in the country. So I hope you're right. I hope I'm wrong. I wouldn't care at all to miss that pick.
One of us has to nail this. And if Iowa loses, I won't be as sad because I know that at least you'll be making some money on it. And if you don't make money on it, we'll both be happy. So.
Yeah. Let's be honest, Joey, though. This is just a pick. I'm not betting that. I can't bet against my child.
100%. 100%.
Dude, I can't believe I almost skipped over that game. I was just flipping my little pages here.
I knew there was an
issue. What the fuck?
Wow. I knew there was a glitch in the system or something.
Yeah.
Because there's no way that you're skipping that game. And I'm like, honorable mentions. We got to get to but I'm glad you saved it to the end because that's the most important game of the week to me.
Yeah, so. Good call. Oh, me too. And the country will be watching. So, all right, let's jump over to NFL and close it out here. I'm going to start with the Jets at Falcons technically, but this game is being played in London. So get some sleep Saturday night because I think this game kicks off at 8 or 9 in the morning. If you're really interested in watching these two teams go at it, both these guys are 1-3. Atlanta is laying 2.5 on this one. Over unders 45.5. Atlanta coming off a loss, another loss, 30-34 to Washington. They were 2-point underdogs, so they didn't cover that, losing by 4. Jets coming off a win. Getting their first win of the season against the Titans, 27-24. They were 5.5-point underdogs, so they obviously covered that. This is like the drudges of the NFL, Joey. These are two of the worst teams, no matter how you look at it, two of the worst rushing teams in the league, ranked 25th and 29th respectively. So that goes Atlanta and then the Jets in rushing, and then two of the worst passing teams as well, 27th and 30th in net yards per pass attempt. These are not high-powered offenses. Atlanta has allowed 11 passing touchdowns so far this season, which is 30th in the league. I guess where I landed on this one is honestly, when you kind of look at the numbers, the Jets defense has been, I'll call it serviceable.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not bottom of the league, about mid range against the pass. 905 yards allowed on the season is 12th. So I found that to be really the only edge I could find in this one. I think the Jets can kind of hold Matt Ryan and that crew to pretty low yards. And I think the Jets can cover that 2.5, if not win.
All right. So I'm actually finding some threes out there. I don't know if you're seeing any threes.
Okay. No, that was 2.5.
But if you can get a 3, though, I know you're going to take that. So
absolutely.
So yeah, I mean, the Falcons being favored against anyone right now feels like I don't understand. What are we doing here? I mean, it's on a neutral site here. It's in London. I mean, I get maybe the lights are too bright going to London, your first trip over there maybe for Zach Wilson. I don't understand. I don't know why Atlanta's favored against anybody. This feels like just a huge joke. He looked mostly great last week against the Titans. I mean, who don't have a great defense, but, he led them to an overtime win.
Yep.
Falcons defense is also trash, like you said. I mean, and even worse, really. Fourth worst in DVOA. Matt Ryan had his best game of the season last week, but they really haven't been able to get much going on the ground with like Mike Davis. I mean, they've been using Cordero Patterson a lot in the receiving game. He actually had a really good game last week. I think he had 3 touchdowns.
He did 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, but I just, can you rely on that all the time? I mean, I saw Cordero Patterson for years in Chicago, and they tried to use him in these different roles, and it's like maybe they didn't utilize him the best way possible. I mean, we know he's a playmaker with the ball in his hands, but I don't. That's not really sustainable in my eyes, especially if you know it's coming. If you saw it the week before, I mean, you probably make adjustments to it, and you're gonna look for that. So, as you said, with the Jets defense, I mean, maybe that changes here against the Jets with the Falcons, but the Jets are middle of the pack in rush DVOA, so maybe they can start to run the ball a little bit better with like Mike Davis and those guys. But I'd rather take the more exciting, flashy, maybe the young team.
Yeah.
Jets, give me the points. I also don't mind the over here. I think there will be some points to be had. Over 45. That's a pretty low total. I like these London games to go over, and Jets, I'm with you.
Yeah, get up, get some coffee, get your day started early with some Jets and Falcons. All right, Lions at Vikings. Minnesota laying 10 on this one. Over unders 49.5. Vikings 1-3. Lions coming in completely defeated at a 1-4. How you feel about this one?
Vikings Lions. So this is a divisional matchup. Obviously, it's going to be in Minnesota, but the Lions actually played the Bears pretty tough for the most part last week. I mean, they failed a little bit in the red zone. They got there, though. They were moving the ball on the Bears quite a bit, actually. And they just kind of failed in the red zone and then had some costly plays, some miscues. Did you say it was 10? Was that the spread?
Yeah, that's what I found.
See, if it was anything less than that, I'd go against what I'm about to say. I think 10 points is like the perfect amount for a team like the Lions playing a divisional matchup here against the Vikings, who they're probably in a bounce back spot here against them, as opposed to, they just got done with the Browns last week. They lost to them, which we correctly called, I believe. I know I had them on my card. The Browns, anyways. They'll probably get the running game going against the Lions like the Bears did. I mean, David Montgomery had a huge day against them. Justin Fields was able to open it up when he needed to and when they decided to. So Kirk Cousins could probably be in line for a decent game here as well. I mean, the Lions defense really is just garbage, but they do fight. They're a tough team under Dan Campbell. Like I said, it's a divisional game. They've played the Packers in recent years close in divisional games, they've covered the spread against them. So I think they will cover the spread here against Minnesota. Give me the Lions plus 10.
Yeah, I'm opposite, man. I agree with you on the laying 10. I hate that number. I always have. I always will. It sucks. If it was anything less, I'd feel a lot better. I just cannot. I can't get on board with this Lions defense. I think they returned to form, not in a good way, last week. Allowing 250 passing and 132 on the ground, even with close games against some good teams early with who we thought were good teams in San Francisco and Baltimore. I think I was a little overhyped on the Lions. I think the Vikings are going to run all over them. I think there's some. Looks like Dalvin Cook is still missing some practice time. I think he was limited today, and anyway, I need to research that a little more. But it doesn't matter. Alexander Mattinson looked good. I mean, those guys are going to have success regardless against this Lions defense. I'll take the points on this one. I don't love it, but I'll take them.
All right, I can't fault you for that. And they're going to win the game. I think that's a great survivor pick, anyways. So
yeah. Broncos at Steelers. I know you pointed this one out as one you had a nice play on. Pittsburgh laying a point or a pick 'em, depending where you look. I know I saw one site that was Pittsburgh -1. One had them at a pick 'em, so you can play it however you want. Over under's 39.5 on this. Pittsburgh coming in at 1-2. Denver at 3-1. We talked about Denver last week, Joey, about are they real or are they not real? And then they lost to a Baltimore team that still trying to figure out what they are too. So Denver 7-23 loss against Baltimore. They were a favorite in that game by a point. Pittsburgh's coming off a loss to Green Bay. They were 6-point underdogs, couldn't cover that spread. So both of these guys coming off some losses, coming off some disappointing losses in terms of the spread. I'm taking Pittsburgh in this one. I think I was really looking at the injury report and almost getting confused on why Denver's even this close in this one. Teddy Bridgewater is pretty questionable right now. He was expected to come back to practice today. He's looking better, but it's concussion protocol. You don't know kind of how all that plays out. And I'm sorry, but if Locke's at quarterback, this is not a close game. Their tight end, I'm not even going to try to say his name. I've heard it several times, but I'm not going to go for it. But he got hurt yesterday in practice. He's been a big target for Teddy this season so far. More injuries on their offensive line with two guards, Graham Glasgow and Dalton Risner. You've got some cornerback issues. I mean, they're pretty beat up right now. The Broncos have a good defense. They can't take away from their defense. It's been pretty stout this year. But I think this Pittsburgh team's got it. It's not your steel curtain by any means. This isn't your Pittsburgh Steelers of the past. Roethlisberger has a little pec thing that's flaring up as well. I don't know. This is a whole injury riddled game. So I didn't quite know where to land.
It's a dumpster fire.
But Pittsburgh's still holding teams less than 100 yards. On the ground, Joey. So I'm going with Pittsburgh on this one.
All right, we got another battle.
Okay, tell me.
So I would like to point out that remember when I picked the Falcons and was the Falcons and Giants game, and then you went with the Giants?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, I was right about that. I just want to let you know that.
You were?
Just want to give you shit about that real quick. But no, so I'm on the Broncos side. So I agree with you on many of the points that you had. I agree that they're injury riddled right now. You also mentioned Big Ben dealing with something. I believe Teddy did come back to practice today, but even with Drew Lock, I think it was limited capacity though. I'm not sure.
It was, yeah.
So we'll still have to see. I mean, like you said, concussion protocol, it could still be out for the game. We don't know. But anyways, I think I have a decent read on this Broncos team so far for whatever reason. I picked the Ravens beating them last week, and I also picked the Broncos to go 3-0 to start the season. So I don't know what it is, but with this Broncos team, like under Vic Fangio, they're a tough team. Obviously on defense, you pointed that out. I think it's a bounce back spot here. Steelers home field advantage. Yeah, we normally like their defense. I think their defense is okay. I think it's pretty solid, but I just, the Steelers rank 22nd. The Broncos rank 7th in defense DVOA, and the Steelers rank 22nd. So there is a little bit of disparity there overall. I think mostly they've been giving it up through the air for the Steelers, but so it depends. Even if it is Drew Lock, though, I'll say this: I'm not really super scared off of Drew Lock because I know he'll open up the offense a little bit more, whereas Teddy Bridgewater will play a little bit more safe. But I just think Big Ben is cooked. Like I just think you put him against this defense, I don't think he's moving the ball much, and he's banged up too on top of that. With both offenses not really being anything spectacular, just give me the better defense in a potential bounce back spot with some hunger behind them. I like the Broncos money line here.
Yeah. That's why it's a pick 'em. I think it is. I think it's a toss up. So we'll see how it pans out. All right, your Bears going to Vegas. Las Vegas laying 5.5 right now. Over unders 44.5. The Raiders 3-1, Bears 2-2. I want to hear your thoughts on this and your feeling after what you saw last week with the Justin Fields era issued in.
Yeah, man. I mean, it was completely different under Bill Lazor calling plays, right? So they had some different concepts that they were using. I mean, it was like they had the tight ends in there chipping and stuff and then going out for passes. I mean, yeah, they weren't targeting the tight ends very much, but they did have one to commit, well, more than that, but one that he fell down on that he basically was – it would have been a terrific play by Fields, to be honest, but I liked what I saw. They didn't throw the ball much. Obviously, they leaned more on Montgomery there. Montgomery had a huge day, but the plays that they did run as far as passing goes, they connected deep. He had that connection with Mooney going. I like how he commanded the offense, really. Like there was one time where he came up the line and he saw something in the defense, and I believe he just yelled like Sunday, and just got it off real quick and just hit Robinson for a quick, pretty decent gain. So I like that because you don't see that too often with rookie quarterbacks just coming to the line and making pre-snap reads like that and just commanding offenses. Like usually it takes them a little bit to kind of work their way up to that. And I heard somebody on a podcast saying that he was more of a game manager. I don't really think that that's what it was. Like I really think it was just the what they needed to do. They needed to run the ball and they ran down their throats, and that sets up everything. The play action, the deep shots, the play action boots, like it just sets up everything nicely. But anyway, so if you flip the side to the Raiders, that was just my little Justin Fields spiel on the offense, how the Raiders was running. But we saw Joey Bosa and that Chargers D-line. They were able to get some pressure on the car. I think they sacked him 4 times in that game on Monday night. Now they are experimenting with offensive linemen and moving draft picks to different positions on offensive line than they drafted them for. I don't know. It could be a mess, honestly, against the Bears, who lead the NFL in sacks with 15. I know some Chicago fans are making the trip out there to Vegas. It's going to be something special for these Chicago fans. I think it's going to help the Bears having that kind of fan presence in attendance there. So I don't know if they win the game. Like Carr's been really good moving the ball through the air for the most part, and but I do like what I've seen from the secondary. And if they are able to get pressure on Carr, I just think the Bears are going to cover here. I will take. Call me a homer. I think I'm taking the points with the Bears.
No, I'm not going to call you a homer. I do think you're wrong, but I don't think it's because you're a homer. No, I can't get on board quite yet. Actually, this Raiders offense has been pretty impressive, right? Number 2 in the league in passing yards per game. Derek Carr has been great. They've been serviceable against the pass on defense as well. You are right. I think if Chicago gets after him and creates a lot of chaos and havoc in the backfield, that could be an issue. But I think he can throw around that stuff. When you look at where Vegas's weak spot is, it's against the rush, right? And normally I'd say, okay, that favors, but Montgomery's gone. Damian Williams, he's fine, but I don't know if it's there. And I think when you look at if the Bears are forced to pass the ball, I still don't know if we know what we get. I mean, dude, Justin Fields was great last week. He was very efficient. He made the throws he needed to make, but they only let him throw it 17 times. You know what I mean? Yeah, I'm not quite ready to sign up for it yet. I think Vegas is a touchdown better here, so I'm taking the points.
That's fair. It's fair. Yeah, we don't know what Bears team's going to show up. Also, so
that's the thing. It's just like prove it, right? Well, first settle into a scheme and a quarterback and a situation, then prove it. So,
right.
Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if that one goes either way. Certainly not a lock for me.
Yeah.
All right. Browns at Chargers. LA coming to this one laying 2. The over-under is 47. Both these teams coming in at 3-1. LA coming in off. We just talked about it. A nice win over the Raiders, 28-14 as 3.5 favorites. So they covered that, and then Cleveland coming off a 14-7 win over Minnesota. We talked about that a little bit ago as well. So they covered as well. I really like Cleveland in this one. This is a little foreshadowing here for the end of the podcast, but the Chargers are giving up almost 140 rush yards per game, which is 30th in the league. And guess who they're playing this week? The number 1 rushing team in the league with Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, and the Cleveland Browns. Herbert's been great. I'm not going to take anything away from him. He's also my fantasy quarterback, so I'm really appreciating what he's done. But I'm sorry, he hasn't seen a defense quite like this yet in this season. So I think he easily gets rattled. The Browns, they're not just a trench team either. They're only allowing 180 passing yards per game, which is 3rd in the league. So that defense is so good right now. I'm going with Cleveland +2, and it's not necessarily a hard pick for me.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I can't fault you for any of that. I actually don't have a play on the spread. I like Herbert and I like the Chargers, and I feel like if Cleveland's going to have a letdown spot, it's here on the road. But traveling to the West Coast, but I don't have a play on the spread because I believe in Cleveland, like you were talking about. So it's going to be a great game. I'm going to enjoy watching it. I do have my first and my only prop bet of the podcast. So I like Odell Beckham Jr. to go over 55.5 receiving yards. He's really all they have as far as main big weapons go, with Jarvis Landry out.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they have Rashard Higgins, they have Donovan Peoples-Jones, but OBJ is the big dog, right? I mean, after only 2 catches for 27 yards against Minnesota last week, I expect him to have an increased role here and make a bigger impact on this game. Baker still targeted him 7 times in that game, and now in the 2 games that he's played since returning from injury, he's been targeted 16 times. So, yeah, the Chargers might have a decent defense, but I like Odell to at least go over 55.5 receiving yards.
Yeah, that seems super low.
Yeah, for a
For all the
number one
reasons you just
wideout.
said. I like that. I wrote that one down. Okay. Final game of the slate here is Bills at Chiefs. Kansas City laying 2.5. I missed the over under. I don't know if you have it, but Kansas City coming in 2-2 and Buffalo 3-1. What's your play on this one?
It's prime time.
Yep.
It's 56.5 is what I saw the over under.
Okay.
And we're going over.
Okay.
There haven't been many of these games that have been going over lately in these primetime matchup. I'm not sure what the total was in this last game on Thursday night as we're recording this, which is now actually Friday early morning. But I believe it went under too. I think what was the final score? 26-17 or something.
Yeah, I don't have it in front of me.
I think it went under. But there's been some games that have been going under. I know the Pats and Bucks went under. The Chargers and the Raiders went under, I believe. Some of these games have been going under. What's the next one to go over? Well, why wouldn't it be with two of the most high-powered and prolific offenses in football? Yes, the Bills have been really good on defense this year. I believe they're first overall in DVOA. If I'm not mistaken, it's either first or second in overall defensive DVOA. But it's Patrick Mahomes, it's the Chiefs, it's Andy Reid, and you know that Josh Allen and the Bills are going to be able to move the ball on the Chiefs because the Chiefs' defense has really been horrid this year. I mean, they're never really known for their defense. I mean, it's been all about the offense, but this season in particular, just absolutely dreadful. So, yeah, give me the over here. Maybe it's a boring play, but we're going to get some shootout. They're going to get some fireworks, I think, in this game.
No, I don't think it's a boring play. I think it's an interesting play. For me, though, this is the Bills for me. +2.5. I'm taking the points all day long. And you hit on it. This Kansas City defense, especially against the rush, is atrocious. 146 rushing yards per game is 30th in the league. I mean, for a team this prolific, it's recency bias of the last few years too, right? It's the Kansas City Chiefs, and we keep saying this is Patrick Mahomes, it's Andy Reid. You know, they're just going to figure it out. But I'm sorry, you got to be able to stop somebody. Mm-hmm. And I, between Devin Singletary, Zach Moss, and Josh Allen for the Bills, they're putting up 145 yards a game on the ground. So that's right at what Kansas City is allowing. So that's going to happen. Kansas City has Patrick Mahomes, and yes, Patrick Mahomes is a magician. He's going to throw the ball. He's great. But you mentioned it about this Bills defense. No one in the league has allowed less passing yards per game than the Bills. No one. I think they can stop that pass game. They're not going to be run on. I just think this matchup, if you look at section by section, this matchup favors Buffalo in every stance. It's at Arrowhead, which makes me a little nervous. There's definitely a benefit to being there, but I think the Bills +2.5 is a pretty clear play for me.
Yeah, and I'll say this too to add on to what you're saying. I believe most of the money is going on Kansas City, or it will be getting more money because of what the spread is, and they're at home. So if you like the Bills side, I would wait and take maybe 3. I think you will be able to get this at 3.
Yeah. Yep, for sure. Joey, that's the last game on my slate. Did you have any NFL honorable mentions you wanted to hit?
No
fun props this week. Come on, or you had the one. But
I know.
You're usually good for 3 or 4 props that I can ride on.
I know, man. I'll say this. It's a little boring this week. I'm going spreads and totals, but maybe it's just because I'm having a lot of success the last couple of weeks with them. So I'm like, why not do more of them?
Yep.
But I will say with the article, you can expect an article probably Sunday morning at ontapsportsnet.com, and I'll have more props there. So I don't have any more special props right now. I'm gonna wait and see and run some do a little bit more research and see what I can find as far as props go.
No, I'm just giving you shit. You're. It's just that you're becoming a boring old man like me. You know, all I do is play spreads. But hey, you just said it. I mean, that's where I found success in the past, and that's where I sit and ride. So, all
Dude,
right, man.
I have a Santa hat on. How much more boring does it get than like I'm literally like just sitting here with my fat belly? Yeah, I'm a boring old man for sure.
You ever seen Bad Santa? I mean, come on.
Yeah, that's me to a T, just gambling and drinking beer. Bad Santa.
All right. Well, as always, thank you to all of you who tune in and listen live, as well as those of you that catch this on the podcast form afterwards. As always, please go out and follow us on socials. You can follow our main on bets account at OnTap Bets. Follow our parent account at OnTap Sportsnet. Follow him, Joey Ricotta, at the Riot 326, and I am Iowa Zach at Iowa Zach. As always, cheers, folks. Happy betting.
Good luck.